Hello, and warmly welcome to this webinar where we're going to discuss leadership and positive psychology.
Hi, warmly welcome from my behalf as well, and thank you so much for joining us today, this morning, tonight, wherever you are. But anyways, to talk about this very interesting topic, at least we think it is.
My name is Pauliina Piippo, and I am the co-founder of Joyla.
And my name is Netta Lehtonen, and I am the other co-founder of Joyla.
And we see some of you guys there online already. And in the beginning, we would like to start with asking you why you decided to attend this webinar tonight, because we would love to hear what kind of expectations you have. What would you like to learn more about? Did you come more from the perspective of leading other people, or are you thinking about leading yourself, or in what kind of contexts do you think about this topic of leadership and positive psychology? Because we can use it in many different ways.
Absolutely. So please feel free to write in the chat. And hello, Tiff, you have already found it. So you others can join as well and let us know why you are here tonight.
And you can also let us know from where you are attending tonight. So hello to Tiff from Espoo, really close to us here on the Helsinki side.
And I will be here checking out the chat at the same time. So in like any time during this webinar, if you have any questions, you have any thoughts you want to share, please feel free to write them in the chat.
Yes, and we have reserved some extra time at the end as well to answer all of your burning questions. But today we are going to talk about leadership and positive psychology. And as I mentioned, it's actually a topic that you can, or these kind of tools that we're going to talk about today, you can use them in many different ways, in many different contexts. And now we have some answers here as well. So Tiff says she's a leader of a 7-people team and looking for ways to expand my leadership gearbox and emotional intelligence of the team. Great. I think I can promise that you will get some new ideas for that tonight.
And Antti is writing that looking for tips for positivity to lead myself and my team, and also from Espoo. Nice. That's where I live also. But I wanted to say to Antti's comment that thank you for bringing this up, because like Pauliina mentioned, you can use these tools not only when it comes to leadership regarding your team or colleagues, but also when it comes to self-leadership or, for example, being a parent.
And here we have Jane that says, I feel I'm being drawn into leadership. I'm interested in remaining positive while under massive pressure and feeling alone. Thank you for sharing that. And I can imagine, or usually people who are in leadership roles might feel quite alone there as well. So thank you so much for sharing that comment as well.
And Raja from Tampere says that wanting to lead myself as well as others, as well as possible.
And then we have Mary, interested in self-leadership, currently a BBA student and looking for some tips for future work life also. You're in the right place, because many of these topics we're talking about today and in positive psychology in general also have a lot to do with these future work skills and different kinds of talents and skills that we need actually already today, but also in the future of work. So you're in the right place here. And then we have Katri from Vantaa, who works as a principal at a music school. Hello, Katri. I think I know who you are. I think maybe one of our students. Yeah. I like PPP studies, and it's nice to have this session in English. Warmly welcome, Katri, and I'm so happy that you're here with us. She has been studying this course in positive psychology that we currently offer in Finnish.
And Vineet, sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrongly, but you are from Scotland. Nice, welcome. Working as a physiotherapist in a hospital, keen to learn and apply leadership skills within myself and people around me. That sounds like a great environment to utilize these skills.
So once again, warmly welcome to all of you guys, and keep the comments and questions coming, and we will answer them as we go. And also at the end, we have reserved some extra time for questions.
And here you have already brought up some great ways how you can use this. or use the skills of positive psychology regarding leadership, or however you want to define leadership. But one interesting thing is that quite often we do a lot of workshops and like different kind of lectures and so on within companies. And it might be that you already know some of the tools or maybe have heard some like theories and stuff. But an interesting question is that, or kind of like a finding is that when we ask people in the companies that, okay, so also you know this, great. Well, do you have any strategies for it? Like, let's say, regarding emotions or strengths or something. And it's quite often that there might not be these kind of strategies, or at least the focus is not, so to say, more on the positive side, but maybe like in what's going not so great, or like what are our weaknesses. So we might know that all this is like very important and good information, but the practice might look different. So today we really hope that while we are speaking, we're going to give you some tools. Listen to yourself. What is like reflecting today? What feels like something that you could actually try out and take it into practice?
Because we're going to give you 3 different tools tonight, and I hope that you take at least one of those into practice. But let's take up our slides here next and get on with the materials. If I can find it from here, what just happened here, because I already opened it once, it seems like it is missing at the moment. But Netta,
I might be able to do it from here.
Yes,
hopefully.
Great. It's good that there are 2 of us here, so if there is some problem, the other one can always back the other one up.
There we go. Now I hope you all can see it.
Perfect. So today we are talking about leadership and positive psychology. But first of all, we would like to ask you a question, because we have some maybe familiar faces here tonight, and then also we might have some completely new people hearing about this topic of leadership and positive psychology. So we would like to ask you first, are you familiar with positive psychology? You might be very familiar with it, or somewhat familiar, or not yet. So we just want to get an idea of what kind of an audience we have here tonight.
And once again, it looks like we have all 3 answers here. So some people are familiar, some people somewhat, and then some not yet. And you all are still in the right place.
For sure. So now I think there's still maybe some answers coming in, but it looks quite even. So now we have 50% that says positive psychology is familiar. 45 says it's somewhat familiar, still some changes going on here. And then for 12%, it's completely new. So we want to start with telling you a little bit about positive psychology in general before we jump into the kind of leadership context even more. But thank you for answering our question.
Thank you so much. Now I ended the poll, and we're going to focus on just a little bit on what is positive psychology. And this is a very simplistic, but also kind of practical way to describe what it is. So if you would have this kind of a line from -10 to +10, especially clinical psychology has typically focused more on the minus side of this scale. So if we have some kind of like stress, anxiety, mental issues, what can we do to help? What can we do to help? What kind of tools can we use when we are on the minus side? But studies show that if we are able to make those few steps and reach this normal state, which is here around 0, it does not mean that we are happy, we're feeling meaning, that we get to use our strengths, that we are flourishing. So positive psychology focuses mainly on this plus side. What can we learn from people, from leaders, from organizations, communities that flourish, that experience meaning, that are happy? And how can we help actually the great masses? It depends on studies, but some studies say that around like 70 or 80% of us are here quite close to this normal state. So how are we able to take steps toward flourishing?
And especially during these pandemic times, even a bigger amount of us seems to be kind of there in the middle, not really languishing, but not flourishing either. So I think there's a lot of need for these kinds of tools, especially today. And as Netta mentioned before, also in organizations, and if we think about leadership, maybe traditionally the focus has been more on fixing what's not working and recognizing weaknesses and thinking about ways to kind of fix those things. And slowly this positive organizational scholarship has started to look at this plus side of the scale as well. So what can we do to make organizations and teams and groups of people flourishing, or help them to flourish?
And I want to emphasize once more that this is a very simplistic way. So obviously it's not like that I am in every part of my, every aspect regarding my life, I'm on the same place here on the scale. So it can look different depending on which areas of your life you're looking at.
And here we have a simple definition of positive psychology. So positive psychology is the study of human well-being, strengths, resources, and how to promote them. So we have these wonderful topics like strengths that we're going to talk about more today. And also very important is the practical side. So how can we take these things into practice and promote these things in different groups of people, or on the individual level, for example?
So now we hope that even you who weren't familiar with positive psychology yet have some kind of definition in mind. And we also wanted to bring some of these benefits, what that positive psychology, and talking about and teaching about well-being, and also getting these kind of steps toward flourishing. So getting more of us toward flourishing. What can it bring? What are the benefits? And there are many, believe me, but we picked a few of them that we think are very, very important ones. So first of all, the one of maybe the biggest benefit of better well-being is that it can help us to enhance and also build stronger relationships. Not to mention that with it comes greater resilience, and we probably can all agree on that, especially during these times that we are living in now. Resilience is definitely a skill that most of us need, but also in everyday life in general. Well-being can help us improve our performance. It can increase creativity. And these are very interesting statistics. So according to some studies, here are two of these, and first one says up to 8 times more commitment to work.
Wow, that's a lot.
That's a lot. And when we talk with organizations, and when you think about yours, where you work at, where you might be a leader, commitment to work is something that we try to find different kind of ways to be able to enhance, right? So this is quite a thing to take into consideration, that the fact that we experience more well-being can actually lead to quite a lot of more commitment. And also higher productivity. So in this study, they found that up to 3 times more productivity.
And if you think about these kind of big development projects, we might have to get just a few % more of productivity. This is a really, really big impact as well.
Right. And here we have 2 examples, but these are similar types of findings that have been able to be seen in different studies as well.
So maybe some good reasons for you to be here tonight. So here we are again, Pauliina and Netta, and as you heard already, we talk a lot about positive psychology, and these things that we are going through today are based on research, based on much of positive psychology, and both of us have a master in applied positive psychology, and I'm also a master of science and a coach, as Netta as well is, and that's from there also comes our kind of a commitment to actually help you to take these things into practice.
Exactly, definitely, yeah. So warmly welcome once again you who joined later. And so my name is Netta Lehtonen and I am the co-founder of Joyla. And Polinario has already introduced me very well here.
And maybe one thing I just want to add from my own background, and I'm sure you agree on this, that because both of us have been working in different industries before working in the area of positive psychology and setting up our own company, we've seen that there are many workplaces that do maybe not flourish that much. And there are many teams, many organizations that really, really would benefit from these kinds of tools. And also myself, if I think about my career before, I was working in IT as a consultant, and now that I look back at it, I can realize and kind of I see that I was really lacking meaning. I couldn't see what the meaning was with my work. Even though today, when I have these tools, I can kind of figure out like, okay, I was actually helping a lot of clients to maybe lift their productivity or do better things. But it wasn't like shown in our team and in the organization, and I couldn't really see what the meaning of my work was. So that led me to kind of a big change in my career.
Yeah, I definitely relate with that. I was working in the finance sector in banks, and meaning was maybe one of the biggest things that was lacking, but it was there. Like now we're going to talk about meaning later and about character strengths, for example. And I think that both of those tools would really have helped me to see what is meaningful in the work I do and feel it a bit stronger. So it feels so meaningful to now be able to share these tools with organizations and with people who can then like start using them and also share them with others.
And a few words about the company Joyla. We are a training and consultancy company representing the third wave of positive psychology, which means that we also are interested in not only working on the individual level, but also taking these things to organizations, to bigger groups, and to different cultures and so on. So we come here from Finland, and we also want to promote this kind of Scandinavian and Finnish well-being.
And research from here.
Yes.
Share it with the world. And we are now Finland's most popular trainer in positive psychology. So we already have thousands of satisfied customers, and we share this kind of free information like this webinar, for example, today, and have been able to do that to tens of thousands of people. And like already mentioned, but meeting is so important, that feels incredibly meaningful for us. So thank you for being here tonight.
And we have several different kinds of training options available, and we will be telling you a little bit more about that later on in the webinar. So what do we have on the menu today? As we mentioned already, we're going to talk about 3 different aspects of thriving leadership. We're going to talk about character strengths, about meaningful work, and about motivation and self-determination. And also, as we already mentioned, please write down any questions or comments you have. We would love to hear what's on your mind and answer all of your questions during the webinar.
And we will, in the end, have a spot where you can, or we will answer your questions and you can feel free to ask more. And if you want to share any of these slides and information that we provide here tonight, or I keep saying tonight because it's tonight for us, but I don't know what time of the day it's for you. In any case, you can feel free to use #Joyla, or here's her Instagram handle, so you can tag us if you want. So take pictures and share them. That's even nice for us, actually.
Yes. Feel free to do that. All right, so a few words about positive psychology and leadership. As I already mentioned, it's a little bit similar to psychology in general. Before, also this leadership research was a little bit more focused on how we can fix the problems, firstly identify them, then find ways to fix the problems. And we weren't that maybe focused on what's already working and how can we strengthen the good things that are already there. So positive psychology has become increasingly a popular research field in the 21st century and has impacted work psychology and organizational psychology as well.
And when we talk about positive work psychology, there, like Paulina mentioned, we're looking at things that what things are already good, what is working, what is meaningful, and what is possible, and then like enforcing this even further.
Mm-hmm. And one topic is also this, you could say, helpful or servant leadership. So inspiring and motivating people and fostering psychological security, which is talked about more and more. And that's a very, very interesting area as well.
And here, like promised, something from Finland. So here is Jari Hakanen, what is it called in English? Now I have a total blackout.
Well, he studies work engagement.
Yeah, but
at the Finnish.
Thank you. That's what I was searching for.
Finnish work. I don't know exactly the word, but this institution where they research working life in Finland.
Exactly.
And the well-being and health in working life.
So he's quite known in Finland within this topic and this field. And he says that we can help each other to find happiness and together develop the well-being and success of our work community in our daily work. And this is something that we feel very, I would say, even passionate about. Mm-hmm. Exactly this thing, that we can help each other and we can do this together.
Mm-hmm. And all of us can affect the organization and the work environment where we are. Of course, the leaders have maybe more responsibility there, but as well, organizations are going more and more to this kind of, I would say, environment where everybody can affect quite a lot their working environment as well.
And here Juha is writing, thank you, Juha, for helping us out, that it's the Finnish Institute of Occupational Health.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And then we have Tony's question. What about transformational and authentic leadership? Are they related to positive leadership as well?
Yes, very much so.
Yes. Actually, one definition that I've seen is that positive leadership is kind of an umbrella term. And under that, we can talk about transformational and authentic and servant leadership. And all of these are kind of under the umbrella of positive leadership, but that's one definition. There might be others as well.
Yeah, this is always the thing with research and studies, that we can define things in so many different ways, and different researchers look at things differently. So somebody puts it under that umbrella and somebody maybe not, but very much related. Yes,
and very important ones as well. So thank you, Tony, for your comment.
Here we have Joyla's Frame of Flourishing well-being model. And everything we do is based on this model. And behind this, or one of the theories behind this, is Martin Seligman's PERMA model, which some of you might know. And then we have created this frame and taken a bit of twists and turns and changed it a bit. So the first part here is positivity, but we actually talk about emotions in general. So not only about positive emotions and how to reinforce this kind of positive environment, but also the very, very strong importance of, we don't like to talk about negative emotions, so more like uncomfortable emotions and how to deal with emotions in general. So emotional intelligence, but then we still name this positivity because we see so many benefits of prioritizing positivity. But that is not the kind of positive psychology, might be a bit like misleading name, because we definitely don't, and the field is going more and more toward that direction, that it's not about like kind of forcing you to be positive or feeling positive emotions, but more so just prioritizing it and understanding the benefits. So I have to bring one here. So Daniel Goleman has said that up to 20 to 30% of the performance of the employees has to do with the emotional environment in the company. That's huge. So definitely by understanding how we can feel more of the positive emotions and get a more positive environment, we can create quite a lot of change.
And the second area we have here is engagement. And one thing that is researched here is work engagement, and also flow might be a familiar concept to you guys or some of you. And strengths is one thing that is really closely connected to this engagement area, because when we recognize our strengths and we find ways to use them, we can find a lot of more engagement in our work, for example. But we're going to talk about strengths a little bit later, or next actually, so you're going to hear more about that.
And then we have relationships. And earlier, when we had the slide of the benefits of well-being, I mentioned that maybe the biggest benefits is that it can create stronger relationships. And why I said it is because in this model, relationships is, or when we look at research from psychology, that is the most or the biggest thing affecting our well-being, the biggest thing affecting our flourishing.
And if we think about it from a leadership point of view as well, it's a really big, it affects our work well-being a lot, the relationships which we have around us at work as well.
But these all affect each other, so we can use or get the help of emotions, strengths, to then build this block of relationships.
And then we have meaning, so a meaningful life, and also finding meaning in work, because all of us, I would say all of us, long for some kind of meaning or some reason why we get out of bed in the morning, and why we, for example, do the work we do. And we both were speaking about this lack of meaning prior in our careers. And this is also something that we're going to talk about a little bit more soon.
And then this quite like hands-on in a way area, which is accomplishment. And there we talk about resilience, goals, motivation, mindsets, and one of our absolute favorite tools, which is self-compassion.
And we're also going to talk about this area of motivation today even more. And last but not least, we have the area of vitality, which we have added upon this original model. And it has to do with your mind-body connection and your health in general, because there's a lot of interesting research coming up about how you sleep, how it affects your well-being, and how you eat, how you move your body, and how you feel in your body, and all these kinds of very interesting areas. So we have wanted to add this as an own area to our frame of flourishing.
Yeah, I have to add here, because I'm like feeling this area's lack so strongly right now, that it's so important. I think probably most of you can relate to it, that, well, first of all, emotions you can feel in your body and everything, but especially like thinking about sleep, exercise, how you eat and how it affects your mind is like such a strong connection. And we both, well, I have a small child who keeps waking me up, but for some reason also Paulina last night happened to sleep really badly. And right away you can like notice how it affects your memory and like everything. So bear with us if we don't remember something today.
We're doing our best. All right, so let's take our first tool for tonight and talk a little bit more about character strengths. And we have one more question for you coming up. So we would like to ask you, does your job offer you the chance to do what you do best daily? And
so now I hope the poll came up there, and you get to answer yes or no to, does your job offer you the best chance to do what you do best daily? Okay, good, it's working, because now that's
we have some answers coming in. Thank you for those. And this might be a tricky question.
But it seems like it's going quite like 50-50 at the moment. Actually, a little bit more of you at the moment are replying that yes, you get to. That's awesome. You get to do what you do best daily.
And after tonight's or today's session, I hope you can maybe find even new ways to do more of what you do best daily. But of course, it depends on your work and what kind of chances you have to affect what you do and so on.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. And also, this is quite a difficult question when it's about like daily.
Yeah, even for me, I'm thinking like, every day do I do that? But I'm happy.
I think you do.
I think, yeah, and I'm happy that, and it also takes kind of like, you have to kind of do it on kind of purpose, or like you can find ways to do that even more.
All right, but thank you. I'm going to end the poll now. So 55% said yes and 44 no.
So that's quite interesting and quite even.
Yeah, and interesting also that maybe still like out of the 40, did I say 4%? There might be many of you who still get to do some of that maybe weekly or so. It's hard to know based on this question. But we wanted to ask you this specific question because Gallup did a very interesting study that 1.7 million people participated, and they had about 100 companies and in 63 different countries, and they asked this exactly same question. And in this study of this 1.7 million people, only 20% replied that they get to do what they do best daily. And if we look even closer to these answers, the interesting thing comes regarding, for example, turnover. That out of these 20% of the people who replied that they get to do, they were more than 50% likely to be in this kind of working in these kind of units where turnover is smaller. But not only the turnover, but they are much more likely to have higher customer satisfaction. So in a big study like this, it was clear that people who get to do what they do best, first of all, feel more engaged, so they are more committed, they leave their jobs less likely, but even the customers can see it.
Yeah, that is really impressive, and also because this was such a huge amount of people that were studied, so a really impressive finding here.
And this is just based on this question, but if we look at these different areas, there are very similar findings.
So here are a few more reasons why you should be interested in strengths and ways to promote them and use them yourself, and maybe also help others around you to use their and recognize their strengths. So first of all, strengths helps to uplift your self-confidence, your capability, your self-esteem, and your self-acceptance. And this is really, really important as a leader, that you know your own strengths, you kind of have you have self-esteem and you have self-confidence, because in that way you are more likely to be able to help the other people around you and your teammates around you. And also strengths can affect our learning and success. And this is really interesting. We are 6 times, we can experience up to 6 times more engagement when we work from our strengths. And again, this is like a really, really big effect. And also strengths can affect our performance. And this was also an interesting study, and quite a big study, not as big as the one before, but 10,000 people were studied here. I think it was actually 20,000 people, double the amount. And they had this simple strengths-based conversation with their boss, which led to up to a 38% increase in their performance. And then they even compared it to having a weakness-based discussion with your boss. And that led to a decrease with 27%. So if you compare that, that's over 50, over 60% difference here. So strengths are the way to go, but we will talk a little bit more about how through strengths, you can also uplift things that might need working on. And of course, sometimes it's important to take a look at your weaknesses as well. But in many cases, we could focus much more on the strengths than we do at the moment.
Exactly. Thank you for adding this, because even when it comes to strengths, positive psychology and the findings in research are not saying that forget about the weaknesses. But if wanting to throw around with like percentages, we can say that quite often it might be the case that we focus like 20% on strengths and then 80 on the weaknesses. Mm-hmm. So maybe throw those two around. And like Paulina mentioned, this kind of talks where you can talk about like strengths, or do you focus on weaknesses? So if we think about this, what are they called in English? Like this kind of quarterly discussions with the manager, or
development
discussions, yeah, whatever they're called in your organization. They are often criticized. Maybe they work really well at yours, and you have already developed these kind of things, like more of a coaching style and more of strength-based discussion, but they are often criticized to be a bit more like too focused in the past and what hasn't been working and what you should still develop. And so keep these numbers and percentages in mind, and maybe switch that a little.
I would warmly recommend that. And also strengths may lead to more happiness and energy. And wouldn't we all like to be happy and energetic? I certainly would. And also, this is interesting that with strengths teams, they have again found lower turnover and higher productivity. So very in line with what we already discussed before.
And now, I already mentioned earlier, character strengths. So those are the specific strengths that are actually like one of the most important research topics in positive psychology, and also one of the biggest. So that was one of the first things that they wanted to do when positive psychology was founded in 1998. And Martin Seligman and colleagues, there were quite a few researchers, more than 50 in this project. They launched this Values in Action, VIA project in 2004. And as a result, so they wanted to go and like check that, hey, what is good in us people? We already know quite a lot about like what kind of mental health problems we might have, so to speak, like what is possibly wrong in us, but what is good? So they went and did a massive research and came up with this classification system where there are 6 virtues, and under those there are 24 character strengths. So we all have these 24 character strengths, but the order in which we have them varies quite a lot. Yeah, did you want to say something?
No, I was just going to add that the underlying feature is virtuous thinking, and that we want to develop good character. And on all of these strengths that we're going to show you soon, all of them are related to this. And they are also moral dimensions and self-justified and widely valued in different cultures. For example, these have been researched around the world. For example, in the Maasai tribes in Africa, they have found the same strengths that in the USA, for example, where this research has started.
And they might answer the question how you like to do things, where your skills might be more like what you like to do.
So here we have the 24 character strengths under 6 of these virtues.
And one of the most important thing with these virtues and the strengths is this language. So you get these kind of words that you might not even have thought about as strengths. So now when we quickly go through them, please kind of have this own little researcher in yourself and listen here, like, okay, what might be my strengths?
Mm-hmm. So first of all, on the upper right corner, we have the wisdom strengths. So they have to do with handling knowledge in different ways, and maybe strengths of the head, you might say. So here we have creativity, curiosity, judgment, love of learning, and perspective.
And then we have the virtue of courage. And here we have the strengths of bravery, honesty, perseverance, and zest.
And then we have the strengths of humanity. So these are strengths that are related to other people, and they are kindness, love, and social intelligence.
And then the virtue of temperance, and there we have forgiveness, humility, prudence, and self-regulation.
And then we have the strengths of justice. So they might be called these community strengths, and they are fairness, leadership, and teamwork.
And then last but not least, we have transcendence. And there we have appreciation of beauty and excellence, one of these strengths or words that I at least wouldn't have known that is like a character strength to begin with. And we both have it, so it was good to get to know it. Gratitude, hope, humor, and spirituality, also sometimes referred to as meaning.
So like Netta mentioned, one maybe the biggest benefit is that we have this language to talk about these strengths. For example, if you think about your teams where you're working, if you start a conversation about strengths and what kind of strengths you spot in each other, for example, we've done many of these kinds of workshops, for example, and it's so amazing to see the faces of the people when they start sharing with each other, like what kind of strengths do I see in you, and these are amazing moments of connection that also build the relationship part at the workplace. So that's one good tip for you guys.
And it's so amazing for us to see this. I can like go back to those times when like people's eyes light up and they are like so happy to hear about the strengths. But at the same time, it's also quite sad how often the case is that they've never shared this kind of topic before. They've never been like talking about strengths or giving the feedback before. But also, of course, in many companies, they have done that.
And there is also a test that you can do, and we can take the next slide here. And let's go to the first mind gym. So we like to use this term of mind gym because in the same way that you can take care, and it's good to take care of your physical health through going to the gym or taking runs or skiing or whatever you prefer. But in the same way, you can and you really should, or I really recommend to take care of your mind as well. And in different ways, we can use different tools to take care of different kind of areas of the mind as well. So here's the first tool: recognize your core strengths. So what are your core strengths? And one way to do it is to just take a look at this classification that we showed you and recognize, okay, these sound like my strengths and so on. But there's also a free test available at viacharacter.org, and I warmly recommend for you to go and do that. It's completely free and available in many different languages. And as a result, you get these all 24 character strengths in your order. And it kind of describes the way that you at the moment use your strengths. So I want to mention that this is not that kind of a test that you do it once and then that's always going to be the same and they never change. But instead, different events in your life might affect the order of character strengths, or when time goes by, there might be some strength maybe showing up a little bit more and so on. So I at least for myself, I like to do it maybe once a year, or if something major happens in my life, then it's interesting to see what happens to my strengths there as well.
And Juha, thank you. He just shared the link in the chat as well. And yeah, that's a very important thing to remember, that these are changeable. So you can even on purpose kind of like build one character strength so that it starts going higher up on the list. But I also have to say that quite often you can recognize like few of your very core characteristics, we call them signature character strengths, that you can recognize like all the way from the childhood. But it's not always the case, and they do change.
So when you have recognized your strengths, think about these questions. So how do your core strengths shine through in your leadership? You can think about leading other people, leading yourself, whatever the context is for you. Or how could you use these core strengths even more consciously to improve your leadership skills? So that is one tool that you can take away, and all this strength thinking in general, a very I would say good one and a popular one in organizations as well.
Yeah, I strongly and highly recommend it. And Martin Seligman himself has said that if you look at all these different areas of well-being and flourishing, with the help of strengths, you can actually affect all of those. So you can enhance relationships, emotions, you can create more meaning and so on by utilizing your strengths. And it's kind of like a Tetris effect as well, that if you start doing this kind of like a little research on your own strengths, then you start spotting them in others as well, and then give some strength feedback.
So Ruth Pierce, who is a consultant at the VIA Institute, which researches these strengths, has said that good leaders know how to use their unique strengths, so using their own unique strengths.
Well said. All right, well then we promised to talk more about meaning, but like I already mentioned, strengths are one way to experience more meaning also, but we want to focus a little bit on this meaningfulness of work.
So how do meaningfulness of work and leadership relate to each other? Meaning of work is, I think, at least here in Finland and probably around the world or in many places, quite a big topic, and that it's talked about a lot. And I think that's a really good thing because it can have a really big impact on your work well-being and your performance if you find meaning in your work. So finding one's own work to be meaningful is related to many important things such as job satisfaction, commitment to work, less desire to change jobs, and also, again, even the customers can see it. And there, yeah. Did you want to add?
Yeah, there was this very interesting meta-analysis done by Blake Allen and colleagues. And the outcomes there, when they looked at meaningful work, was that they broadly support the notion that people with meaningful work feel better and work better. So they both feel better and work better. And this is really interesting and also kind of like, well, I find it important because sometimes when talking about positive leadership, it has been criticized about the fact that, okay, well, are we now using these methods of kind of making people to feel better just to boost, like the performance and making more money and so on. But when we look at these different fields, we really do see that it actually helps both the individuals and the organization.
And also managing meaningfulness is an interesting and a kind of important question here, as we already both mentioned or talked about, that we couldn't really maybe see the meaning in our work in our prior careers. So very often you can find the meaning, or there is a meaning in your work, but it's more about finding ways to promote that and show that to the worker, so everybody can kind of feel why we are doing what we do.
It would be interesting to hear, by the way, so if you do have any thoughts or questions or anything, but that how is it for you, or have you heard any good stories about this kind of meaning creation or managing the meaning and showing it to the individuals working in the company that what we do is meaningful?
And here are some sources of meaning at work. And I would say this is one research, or according to one study. There are many different theories, but this is quite an extensive one, and we wanted to show this to you guys. So often people might ask, okay, so where does the meaning of work come from? And the answer is that it can come from different places for different individuals, because we're all different and have our own sources of meaning. And also it's usually good that there are maybe more than just one source, so that we can get it from different sources. But here are some sources listed. First of all, meaning can come from the self. So if your values are aligned with the organization's values and the mission, for example, also from your own motivation and your own beliefs. And again, relationships, other people matter in this case as well. So you can get meaning from your co-workers, and leaders have a big role there also to promote the meaning of work. But also you can get meaning from groups and communities. So for example, from your customers, you might get the meaning to your work when you see how your work affects your customers. And also your own family and the people around you might affect your own experience of meaning at work. And then the work context also matters. So simply how your job tasks are designed, and if they are motivating and feel meaningful to you, and the organizational mission, if that is something that you really really feel that you kind of is aligned with your own values and so on. Financial circumstances affect it, and also non-work domains, and even the national culture might affect the experience of meaning at work. And then last, we have spiritual life. So also your spirituality, if you have different kinds of spiritual beliefs, this might also work your experience of meaning. And also if you find your work to be a calling or even a sacred calling, this might also be one source of meaning.
So quite a lot of sources. And here maybe might be a familiar story for some of you. It's about these three guys, sometimes also referred to as brothers, I think, who were building a cathedral. And they wanted to ask these three men that, what are you doing? And the first one is sitting there like putting on these bricks, one above the other. And when asked these questions, that what are you doing? He's saying that, well, I'm putting these bricks one on another, like building this here to get some money for my family, to get some food on the table. Good answer, right? Then they go to the next man and ask the same question. And he's doing the same thing. And he's saying that, oh, I'm building this wall here and I'm making a career. So he was thinking of it as a like little bit broader, kind of like, like a career move. But then the interesting thing is when they go and ask the third man, he's doing the same work, but he's like, I'm building this cathedral so that we can, all go here and worship God. And all are doing the same work, but they have such different answers. This is a story. I don't know if this is true. It said that they were asked when they were building St. Paul's Cathedral in London. But the interesting thing is, when we look at research, the findings are actually very similar. And one good thing is that this brings the answer, or I don't know if it's an answer, but like this, like a statement that in every job, we can find meaning, we can experience it. But when looking at different jobs, it often looks the similar way that, okay, maybe 1/3 is seeing it as a way to get food, to make money, to have a roof above our heads. 1/3 seeing it as a way to like build a career and move on. And then 1/3 as a calling. So really like finding it meaningful.
And Tony here added a comment in the chat about job crafting. Thank you, Tony. That's kind of means that you maybe find ways to increase the meaning or increase the engagement of your work, or if you have the chance to, for example, affect your working tasks or with who you work or when you work, from where you work, and so on. So if you find this in small ways to kind of craft your own job, this might have a big effect on the experience of meaning, for example.
Definitely, that's a really good one.
So here we have Adam Grant, who is a professor at Wharton School of Business and also a best-selling writer. And he has said that the single strongest predictor of meaningfulness is the belief that our jobs have a positive impact on others. So here we have the relationship part coming up again, when we can see that there's some kind of positive effect from what we do on other people, then that really brings meaning to our work.
And at least if I think back of my different jobs I've had at the banks, I would definitely say that this is so true. And if we would have had like different kind of conversations and tools for seeing it, like, okay, the fact that I'm, for example, calling customers in for visits in their bank, like, what is the bigger picture here? What can it actually do for them? That would definitely have helped me to feel more meaning.
Mm-hmm. And there was actually one study done by Adam Grant and his team in these very similar circumstances in the USA, where there were these call center workers that were collecting money and donations for a university. And you can imagine maybe sitting there from day after day and making these calls and maybe getting quite a lot of neglecting answers as well. It might be quite quite tough to do that kind of work, and the turnover, Netta knows, the turnover was quite high. So then Adam Grant and his team went in and designed this intervention to kind of uplift the meaning of their work. So for one group, they didn't do anything, just as a comparison. And then for one group, they had people who had received scholarship thanks to the work that these call center workers had done, write them thank you letters, write them letters about how this work that they do in the call center had helped them to get a place to study or do some research or these kinds of things. And that had a small effect. But the single most or the biggest effect was when they took one person who had received a scholarship thanks to the work that these people had been doing and was able to study and fulfill his dreams. And he came in for 10 minutes and talked about how this had helped him to be able to study, to be able to chase his dreams and make meaningful things happen, maybe. So this had a really huge impact on the callers. During the next week, they doubled the amount of calls that were made, and they made 4 times more money, or they collected 4 times more donations during that next week. So a really small and kind of simple thing, and these kinds of things might have a huge effect on people's sense of meaning, and through that on the productivity and well-being and so on.
Yeah, in a way, like such a simple thing, but that can have a big effect. And have to share a really quick one. We could talk about these topics for so long, but some radiologists were also done this, like a little bit similar kind of thing, where instead of just giving like the pictures of bones and or whatever, all kinds of things they're looking at, they were also shown people's faces. So who is the patient? And they were better at doing more, was it quicker and more accurate diagnosis? Mm-hmm. So just the fact that you kind of saw more meaning because you saw the person there, they perform better.
So now we are going to the mind gym again to shake up your job title, and you can use it on yourself, or you can use it with your teammates or people around you as well. So,
and we would love it if you share these in the chat.
We would. So if you were to forget your current official job title, by what name would your coworkers or clients or the people around you describe your job in terms of the impact it has on them? So if you were to make a new job title for yourself through thinking about the impact your work has on your coworkers, clients, other people around you. So please feel free to share these in the chat. It's always lovely to hear these kinds of new job titles, and you can even maybe add it on LinkedIn or on your what's it called, your card, that where you have your contact information and so on.
I was going to say credit card, but that's definitely not it. Business card.
Business card, yes.
And I have to share just really quick that we did once, or Paulina was the one doing that one, a workshop for all the assistants in one of these world's biggest consulting firms, one located in Finland. And we decided to put this specific mind gym exercise there because there was a lot of talk about the fact that like assistants, for example, they do such an important job. Mm-hmm. It's a really important position, but somehow it often might be that the assistants themselves even think that, oh, I'm just an assistant, or whatever it is. And it was amazing. Do you remember any of the examples, but to hear what they came up with and how important they are?
Yeah, well, somebody was saying they're kind of like a mom in the team, and also it was kind of this flight center worker or somebody who coordinates, flights at an airport. That says quite a lot about how many strings you have to pull and be on top of so many things when you are working as an assistant in that kind of an environment.
And thank you. Here you have already shared a few. So Manuela says productivity coach, nice one.
Then we have confidence and empowerment and creative mind motivator.
Wow, very good ones.
And I love this outdoor fresh air provider for impatience. Thank you.
Oh, that's a great one. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, great titles and such a different perspective to look at if you think about either the co-workers or the clients. Like, how does your work actually impact their lives? I think it would be good if we all viewed our titles that way sometimes.
But we still have one tool left, and as Netta said, we could talk on and on about this, but let's go to the next one. So bear with us for a bit longer, because we have one more interesting tool to share with you, and it's motivation and self-determination, which again has a lot to do with actually both strengths and meaning that we already have been talking about.
I have to share Raya's, though. It's also so great. Courageous of future dreaming and self-loving.
Oh,
thank you.
I love that. So here we have the self-determination continuum. And self-determination theory is a theory created by Richard Ryan and Edward Deci, and it has been studied quite widely. And it has to do with motivation. So it's one motivation theory. There are many others, but this is quite a known one, and also it has been studied quite a lot. And here we can see that motivation is kind of goes on this kind of a continuum, or on this kind of a line. So on the other end, here on the left side, we have amotivation, which means that you are completely lacking motivation to do something. And then in the other end, we have intrinsic motivation. So it means that you are doing something just for the sake of doing it. So even though you might achieve things very well, when you are intrinsically motivated, that is not the thing that motivates you. You are doing it just for the pleasure of kind of doing whatever task you are doing. Or strengths is a good example here, because all of these strengths, these character strengths, they are intrinsically motivating. So you use them just for the sake of the enjoyment of using the strengths, instead of wanting to achieve something through that strength. But then here in the middle, we have extrinsic motivation. So it means that your motivation comes from outside. So it might be some kind of a prize or benefit or money, or
something else. Somebody else wants you to do.
Somebody else wants you to do. So there is like quite a big continuum. You can be really close to this amotivation end, where you're like almost not motivated at all. But then if you find ways to kind of see, like, why is this important? How does it benefit? And through these kinds of questions, you can slowly maybe move your motivation towards a more intrinsic motivation. But I have to add here that I'm sure that all of us in our jobs, we have different kinds of tasks. Some of them are more extrinsically motivating, some more intrinsically motivating. But through adding our strengths to the task, we can also, in that way, maybe increase the intrinsic motivation, because using the strength in itself is already intrinsically motivating.
Also seeing the meaning in the tasks.
So we can see
work.
These are all connected to each other.
And here we have a quote from Richard Ryan and Edward Deci, saying that perhaps no single phenomenon reflects the positive potential of human nature as much as intrinsic motivation. The inherent tendency to seek out novelty and challenges, to extend and exercise one's capacities to explore and to learn.
So the self-determination theory that Deci and Ryan have created consists of 3 basic psychological needs. And all of these, if these needs are met, they help us to kind of create this intrinsic motivation. So they increase our motivation. And the first one is autonomy. So if you find opportunities to influence important things and make decisions. And of course, it varies how much each of us can and have the opportunity to affect our work. But for example, the job crafting that Toni mentioned here is one way that you can kind of, even with small changes, try to take your job tasks and your work more in the direction that you can maybe use more of your strengths and maybe find more meaning and so on. And the contrast to autonomy is control. So you feel that you have an impact when you feel this autonomy. And the second area or the need is capability. So one's experience of their own competence and capability. So we feel that we have kind of a confidence in our own skills, and we know that we can handle our jobs. And here again, the strengths come in really well, because through using our strengths, we can increase the sense of capability in our work. And then we have the feeling that we can do things and the task that we are working with. And the third one is relatedness. So again, the relationships come up here, the community spirit and the deep need to experience contact with others and belonging with others. So this is really one that also affects your intrinsic motivation, and that you feel that you are part of the team.
And now you get to go on the last mind gym of the day, or this webinar. So fostering internal motivation by enabling basic psychological needs to be met. And think about these areas that Paulina just went through. So autonomy, capability, and relatedness. How can you promote those in your organization? Can you think of some kind of ways to promote each one of these? And try to get quite like concrete with these ideas. So consider some good like hands-on ways of doing this.
And if you have some good ideas, please feel free to share them again in the chat, because I'm sure we would all love to hear more ways to promote these things in our work.
And just to kind of like mention the link again, like Paulina just said, of course, for example, strengths function as a way specifically when we think about this capability part. But they also can help with the others.
All right, so we leave you with this question, and you can, if you want, you can share with us in the chat and maybe take this question with you from here on. But now, if you have any questions, any comments, please feel free to share them in the chat. And now we're going to just quickly run through some information about what Joyla does, and if you want to learn or know more about positive psychology, what kind of things we have to offer.
And our next free webinar. But yeah, please keep the questions coming if you have any, and we will answer them.
We'll get back to them.
But here's a little bit about our services. So we maybe already mentioned this, but as a reminder, we help people, communities, and organizations to flourish. And we do this oh my gosh, my English is, something is happening with my brain since I didn't sleep well. Anyways, it doesn't matter. Here, actually, I seriously have to mention this as an example. I get to use my strengths while I'm doing this. So I don't care as much about the fact that I don't remember some words, because my strengths give me self-confidence. So there you go, if you want to utilize them. So through these kind of webinars, also through, like I said, workshops and speeches and so on for organizations. And then we have our course here in Finland that we talked about a little bit earlier. We do everything mostly online, but in 3 languages, so English, Finnish, and Swedish. And we have these training programs and different kind of courses for individuals. But a bunch of organizations send their leaders and individuals to our courses. But then we also have, actually, we're going to share you the next webinar coming soon. And these workshops and so on, if you have, here is this, you can maybe share the link also in the chat, but joyla.com // global. And from there you can read more, but you can definitely ask us to come and speak to your organization if you are interested in any of these themes or positive leadership or positive psychology in leadership in general.
Yeah, I have to mention here that both the topic of strengths and also the topic of meaning have both been really popular in organizations. So
definitely,
for example, feel free to ask more about these if you're interested. So we have different online trainings and courses. We have a course of the basics of positive psychology, and currently in Finnish, and it's a shorter introduction to this whole field, but much longer than we had the time to do today. And then we have a positive psychology practitioner program, which is a very comprehensive well-being training program, and it's delivered in collaboration with the Finnish summer universities, and it's 8 months long and currently also in Finnish, but we have plans about creating these in English as well. So if you're interested in these, please feel free to shoot us an email, for example, at info@joyla.com, and we would like to hear, or actually we have a global address as well, hello@joyla.com, and there we will tell you more.
But you can definitely contact us in any channels. Also, like earlier mentioned, Instagram and so on, we are active in those. And here was just a question, are you on Twitter? Joyla does have a Twitter account, however, it is not used very much at all. So that might be one of the next steps to take.
And thank you, Juha added this email there, so it's hello@joyla.com.
And here, once more, a little bit about the workshops. So we customize them according to the organization's needs. And we have various work-life related topics. Basically, well, all of these topics within positive psychology are also work-life related. But some of the most asked for ones are, like Paulina mentioned, character strengths and meaningful work, but also, for example, resilience. Mm-hmm. And we do different lengths, so 1 hour, 3 hours, a whole day, depending on your needs. And these are feasible at all levels of the organization, all the way to management. And sometimes we also combine these. So first we might be with managers and then the whole organization, and there are various ways. And we do everything, like said, mostly online, but of course workshops also at your premises, and in English, Swedish, or Finnish.
And we also have an upcoming free webinar in English. So we're going to talk more about relationships, because this is something that has been mentioned a lot today as well. So on February 15th, the same time as today, we're going to have our own webinar about relationships and positive psychology, a very, very important topic, and just after Valentine's Day as well.
And I'm just trying to memorize what we have in that webinar as tools, but I am very sure that all of those go well with or regarding leadership as well. So
yes,
like said, yes, that's maybe the most important topic regarding flourishing and well-being. So please feel free to join us if you're interested in that.
And you can find more information from our website and also sign up later on to the webinar through there. But if you sign up for our newsletter, we will send you more information about this upcoming webinar as well. So here, just as a short reminder, what have we been talking about today? 3 practices for thriving leadership. So first of all, we were talking about identifying and making use of people's natural strengths and also using them in your own leadership.
Then we were talking about the meaningfulness of work and its management. Shaking up one's job title was the mind gym topic.
And lastly, we were talking about the 3 components of self-determination theory and using them to promote intrinsic motivation. And as we mentioned in the beginning, we really hope that you take at least one of these, start with one of these and try to implement that in your own work, your own leadership or self-leadership, and see what happens. And we would love to hear about that as well.
And if you already decided which one, please feel free to share it in the chat.
So now, if you have any more questions, please feel free to write them in the chat, and we are happy to answer all of them. And thank you guys for being active and sharing your thoughts, sharing your questions and ideas with us tonight. It has been a pleasure to be here with you guys tonight.
And Reetta is saying here that also one Finnish researcher, Frank Martela, who by the way has a great book regarding meaning, also in English. I can't remember
A Wonderful Life? No?
Yes.
I'm not sure about the title. Something like that.
That sounds very familiar, but I don't remember the English name. Anyways, you can Google Frank Martela, and that he has added helping others as a fourth aspect to, and this means to the basic psychological needs. And yeah, that he has also added that it hasn't been researched enough, so it still needs a bit more research to actually be added there. But yeah, it's an extremely important one and a great add-on from Frank.
Absolutely.
So we're still here for a while if you have any questions, but maybe you already answered this question when we asked that pick one thing that you will take with you. But here, once more, what is one good thing that was worth coming for?
And you can even write it down for yourself and have that as a reminder in the future as well.
And see, you remembered correctly. You have right here that A Wonderful Life, Insights of Finding a Meaningful Existence.
It's a warm recommendation for Martela's book.
And it was published last year, so it's pretty new.
Quite new, and new research there as well. So once again, as a reminder, please save the date on February 15th if you want to hear more about relationships and positive psychology. Also feel free to contact us through different channels if you want to discuss more about, for example, these workshop possibilities that we offer.
Oh, and thanks for sharing, Tiff, finding out about the VIA survey. I will take that. Good.
That's a great one to start with.
Perfect first step.
And here we have one of our lovely customers, Laura Bratz, who is a customer encounter coach at DNA. And she has gone through our extensive positive psychology training, and her comment of the training is that positive psychology training with Joyla gave me more than I expected. Theory and tools for my personal life and flourishing, and also tools to apply at work. The most fantastic thing was to understand that still, after 18 years of my coaching career, I can learn and realize new things that my coaches will benefit from a lot. So that is really amazing to hear.
And once again, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thank you for giving us this place where we can talk about this very meaningful topic. And feel free to contact us, like I earlier already mentioned, in any way that best works for you. But in Twitter, we are not very active at the moment, like mentioned earlier. But here, we have our online, our webpage, our Facebook, Instagram, and also here is actually now this info, but you are very welcome to contact us there, or then like Juha posted earlier, hello@joyla.com.
So thank you from my behalf as well. Thank you for being here, and I wish you all a wonderful time during the holidays, and hope to see you in February in our webinar regarding relationships and positive psychology.
Yeah, thank you so much. Let's stay in contact and hopefully see you soon.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.